Good morning. I'm Peggy Kelly, and this is Good Morning Santa Paula. It's Thursday, February 25th, and our guest today is Santa Paula's Mayor, Carlos Juarez. So, good morning, Carlos. So happy you were able to join us this morning.
Thank you, Peggy, and thank you, Bob, for setting this up. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Great. And I know there's lots to talk about today, too. There's so much, things are moving in many different directions. So, let's talk too. I guess the big subject right off the bat is Kmart. What's going on there, at least on a temporary basis? The former Kmart that's on Faulkner Road.
Well, as you know, Kmart unfortunately began closing its doors a while back, and it became kind of a magnet for people just to dump stuff. And then there were some groups in town that made an effort to go clean it, and then the city got a hold of the property managers and said, "You need to put a fence around it." So, it's in the process of being sold and maybe made into something useful in the future. But the county of Ventura is going to utilize that site as a vaccination site, and the date that they have scheduled is March 10th.
Oh,
So
that's
that'll be a great location, great access to the city on off the freeway, and plenty of parking, and or if they have to serpentine cars through the area to get them, in an organized fashion. That'll be a great location.
oh yeah, that's a huge parking lot. I know they've got 225 marked spaces. So I mean, there's so much room there. It's the perfect location for the COVID vaccination. So I'm very happy to hear that, and I know everyone in town is also. Now, and also speaking of vaccinations, I know the county is opening up the vaccination as far as who's eligible at this point. And we've got frontline healthcare workers, 65 and older, and farm workers they started. And do you want to update us on the rest of the list?
Well, your article in the paper is always so informative, and I hope that people either get the electronic version or the paper version. But there's so much that is occurring as far as reaching out. I know there was some information a while back because they thought they were going to go to 65 and older, and then it was 75 and older. But the most important thing about the vaccinations is that they're opening it up, but you need to make sure that if you're eligible, you either register on the website, which is venturacountyrecovers.org, and they will send you updates as to those areas and people that are qualified to go get vaccinated. And as you said, those are healthcare workers, grocery workers, farm laborers, and such. But in addition to that, they also offer a phone number for people to call in English and Spanish, and the number is 805-477-7161. And they say right on when you call on that phone number, it says for those that have some difficulty with the internet or emails or websites, please call that number. And one of the concerns that folks said to me recently was there was long waiting times for people, and some people get a little distracted, disappointed, disillusioned waiting so long. But the county just sent out an email yesterday saying that there was 24 more staff that are there to assist with the phone calls. So those are important for people to register. And I think they're saying that, the best time is early Mondays, because then they know how many vaccinations are available and they can schedule it accordingly, because they will only vaccinate depending on how many vaccinations they have available. So it's best to get on there early Monday, spend some time either on the internet or on the phone and make a reservation. So.
Yes, and there are some people now also that their own physician can send them to, like, let's say community memorial, some of the healthcare corporations or plans or whatever they're called, they have vaccine. The pharmacies, some of the pharmacies have vaccine, so there's vaccine out there. But you can start with your own physician. Try the county for sure, because you have to go through them for just about everything, and you can go directly to some of the sites also, but it can be a very long and complicated process. And you were also saying something about, but perhaps some of the service clubs or the Rotary Club in particular might try to get involved if need be to help people make their appointments.
Yes, well, as you know, a concern of seniors is sometimes they have limited mobility to get to the vaccination sites. And
Mhm.
so I just understood that county is trying to make arrangements for healthcare professionals to go to those folks that are homebound. So there was a concern about accessibility by phone, accessibility to electronic means such as registering, And of course, there's so many people that have so many things going on. We just got to make sure we don't step on other people's toes as
Yes.
far as, too many people doing too many things. Rotary, for the last several months, had a COVID-19 assistance program where we used our district designated funds to help folks that within our area that are behind in utility payments, not rental, because those were basically a moratorium on those. But one of the other things that came up recently is the difficulty for seniors to be able to get registered either through the internet or phones. And so our COVID assistance committee is meeting tomorrow, along with some folks from Latino Town Hall and the Area Agency on Aging, to make sure that if there's gaps that need to be filled, I mean, you might have all the processes in place for registering or getting people to locations for vaccinations, but if you don't have the people, that's where maybe Rotary, and again, it has to go through our committees to see what exactly where the needs are and what we can do. Because again, we don't want to overextend ourselves into areas that are already being covered, but we want to be a resource for our community.
Oh, absolutely. And it takes a lot of hands. It takes a village, to get the village vaccinated. So now, and of course, everybody has to, no matter if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, especially if you're not vaccinated, but even if vaccinated, everybody has to adhere to the guidelines, the COVID guidelines. They've got to wash their hands and social distance and all that other stuff. So that's still important.
And wear a mask. And the most important thing, before was just when you're going to go into place, but now there's basically a recommendation and a strong urgency that whenever you get out of your car and you're in public, walking, to the store or walking to wherever, that you wear a mask. And it's not only to protect other people, but to protect yourself as well, because there's some people that are asymptomatic and may not know that they actually may be positive. So again, it's just, and I think the analogy is, you need to protect yourself as if you possibly were contagious. And that way you just have a little more mindset about hand cleaning, social distancing, and protective gear.
Absolutely. And speaking of protective gear, now they're saying that perhaps people should wear a paper mask under their cloth masks when they're out in public. They don't have to do that and anywhere else, but out in public, they really recommend it because they find that that gives the best protection against any virus germs. Boy, I'm telling you, we're living in strange times, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully I'll be there to see it. You know what I mean? But anyway, so let's talk about park and recreation news. I know they've got. I've been driving by the depot, and it's looking beautiful. So let's talk about what's going on there.
Well, as you know, when they started making those depots way back in the day, they were a kind of a yellow mustard color.
Yes.
And so it was like that forever. And of course, there's stories about, I think it was in the 70s that somebody from the high school, or the station master changed the color, to commemorate the red and white for the high school. And that's where that color changed. But as time went on, the red and white color of our depot has been such a draw for commercials and movies. And so the thoughts came up over the years, should we change it back to the original color? But when you talk about, historically, people that are true historians would say, let's go back to the original colors. But for tourism and marketing of Santa Paula, what better than to draw people in with the colors that it's been, for a long time. So when they started first primering it, it was kind of interesting. Social media, right away, people were saying, they're changing the color to white. The depot's going to be white. And of course, people are going to say, no, that's primer. That's primer. And, but no, it's starting to look, just wonderful again. And it stands out. It jumps out at you that, it's a historic building and going back to a very stark and distinct color, which is the red and white.
And it's been there since what, about 1887, I believe. Is
I believe
that?
that's about the date, yes.
Yes, I mean, so it's just, it's been there all along. It's, and across the street, of course, we have the famous Morton Bay fig tree. It's been there just about as long. And behind that, we've got our architectural and artist mural. And it's a wonderful place just to go and stand in front of the depot and look around. It really is. That's wonderful. Now, they're also, I guess, Parks and Rec has gotten very innovative, which they have been all along, but they've had a little even extra spark. They're going to have what, a game night, I believe?
They're going to have a virtual game night on March 4th and the 19th, and then they're planning an Easter egg scavenger hunt on March 27th. You know, you got to, those folks at Parks and Rec in our whole city, everybody is working through this as best as we can. And, you know, we hope that the new normal will be to include some of these things that we've achieved. Zoom meetings. I mean, you can be anywhere in the United States or anywhere and still attend a meeting. So I think the new norm is going to be back to the way we were, but with the addition of technology. I mean, look what they did with the schools. Now, if you think about it, if you have kids that are off sick or, you know, have surgery or whatever, you know, may not be able to go to school. Now, the fact that we have distance learning, they don't have to be in a classroom. And I think that's going to continue forward. But again, going on to the Parks and Rec Department, you know, they're being very innovative. You know, they, just like the museums, put out the activity bags for the community. So people will drive through and give those, and behind it, of course, is the senior center that still continues to give out meals to seniors. But you know, you remember that back in October they did the virtual Halloween, and
Yeah.
so the biggest thing I think we saw from that is, you know, there was basically COVID police that were making sure people were distancing, and I don't recall seeing any kind of spike calling it a you know, a COVID spreader activity. So that was a very successful activity, the Halloween, and then of course they did the Santa tours, which, you know, brought Santa around town, because we didn't have our traditional Christmas parade, but we brought Santa out to the community, and I think it's just fantastic what they do. And I will add that last year it was kind of late in the season, but Councilmember Sobel said, you know, I know they did the Santa tours. Why don't we take the Easter Bunny and take him around town, him or her? And so I'm pretty sure that idea is probably going to come up again. It is a lot of logistics, but it would be nice to, you know, bring out the Easter Bunny to drive around town, say hi to the kids, but we'll see. We'll see.
Oh, that's wonderful. And is there any plans perhaps for having a drive-through scavenger hunt like they did at Harding Park before?
You know, I'm not sure. I don't know enough about that. I know the scavenger hunt may be virtual around town. Pardon me?
COVID testing facility, and Harvard Park's also a COVID testing facility. So, well, we'll see. We still have time, and you know, but I'm sure the Easter Bunny will be out in all his or her glory. Now, Public Works. Let's talk about Public Works. They're hopping too. We've got the Peck Road and Pavement Improvement Project. What about that?
Well, let me jump back a little bit. You know, if you go around town, you know, for a while there was a lot of concern and complaints about our streets, and as you know, we have a 5-year management plan. And, you know, there was some explaining to do because they figured there are some streets that are in really bad shape. Why don't they fix those? But, you know, it's just like owning a car. If you do maintenance, it's going to last longer instead of spending all your money for, you know, one major repair. And that's what they're doing around town, is they're making sure our streets are maintained. Now, the one big construction activity that they just did is the area around Palm Court.
Mhm.
You know, if you've been up there, that it really went through some major repairs up there. And one of the changes I've heard recently, if you recall, is they made a raised curb. And you know, curbs and sidewalks are designed for the safety of pedestrians. But what I've heard is some of the people that normally drive in that area now are a little disappointed that they can't make a U-turn. They have to drive all the way to the top. But when you talk about safety and traffic patterns, I think that was a good design, in that, you know, they're always thinking ahead about public and pedestrian safety, but also making it look very nice. And I think they've achieved both of right there on Palm Court. But on Peck Road, you'll see that they're starting the pavement improvement program in March, which is going to be some repairs on Peck Road all the way from, you know, down there where the Faulkner Road is. Faulkner? Right there by Kmart, and up to Harvard, and then up above Harvard as well.
Well, that's great. And then they're going to be also doing some, yeah, and parts of Faulkner Road are going to be included also. And that's going to include pavement rehab and construction of ADA curb ramps. So
yes, those are always important, because you don't think about it unless you're disabled, and those people with difficulty getting around. It's important that we comply with Americans with Disability Act and make sure that our street improvements always include the aspect of you know, ADA access. So those are also part of the rehabilitation and improvement project as well.
okay, well, anything else coming up? Anything community events wise, or any thoughts? Anything the council's up to that we'd like to hear about? Or
Well, you know, last year, many things were canceled, including parades and the pumpkin patch and cruise night. Those things were canceled throughout the, and you know, Latino Town Hall, and the also were delayed, as well as the state of the city. When we finally got the technology and started doing those, they were delayed, but they're being broadcast. And I think everybody's done a fantastic job of those virtual award ceremonies. But right now, we're at a point in COVID where, like you said, people are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and they're anticipating by the end of summer that things hopefully should be back to normal. Now, I want to add that hopefully the new normal includes some of the abnormal. You know, seeing businesses on Main Street with people eating outside was abnormal because for the longest time we didn't allow it. But people, I think, really enjoy it, and I hope that it's something that now the city will move towards allowing both inside and outside dining, because even after this is over, you're going to still see people not shaking hands, not hugging, wearing masks, and some people are going to want to eat outside. So I think that's going to be hopefully the new normal, with people eating outside and opening it up to outside dining. Going back again to some of the activities, I know I spoke to a couple of the promoters of Cruise Night, and they did not pull permits because they didn't know a month or so ago where we were going to be. So as of this morning, Jonathan Royas is going to speak with the chamber to find out if they, in conjunction with the Santa Paula Police Officers Association, are going to host a cruise night. Because, and if that happens, it probably will be closer when we get to the red tier and beyond. And then we want to make sure that it's safe, because there were some folks that did an unofficial cruise night, and it was great because people were driving around. But you know, I also drove around and didn't see some of the safety features that should have been involved in a community event like that. So we're hoping that cruise night can come back, you know, hopefully around summertime. I know that the county fair said they're not going to have the county fair this year, but Rotary just got the okay to move forward with preparations for the pumpkin patch, and that's through Limonera. But again, it really depends on what the county is going to allow. So there's a possibility the pumpkin patch may come back in October. Now, other things that occurred during the year, I speak to Ron Merson occasionally, and he says that you know, he's been in charge of parades for a long time, and those parades again are going to be contingent on where we are with the pandemic. So you know, if we continue to adhere to the recommendations as far as social distancing, washing hands, masks or double masks, and you know, limiting big gatherings, I think we can all achieve this, because we are all in this together, and ultimately the success of us overcoming this is everybody's responsibility. And as I said, hopefully all these programs and events that were canceled and postponed last year can come back, and people are looking forward to it. I'm sure that as they start coming out with these events, they're going to be very, very successful, because people are ready to go out and start doing things again.
Yes, they certainly are. Well, and
But
that's
and if I could just add, as far as the council, I mean, we've been you know, doing budget meetings and planning meetings, and I know that the social injustice committee met yesterday. So there's a lot of things that are happening, but they're happening, you know, in virtual meetings and Zoom meetings. But I'm sure you'll see some information coming forward in the next few council meetings. And yeah, so there's some good things on the horizon, and I think we're looking good for this year. We just
Mhm. Okay, well, listen, we certainly appreciate you being with us today, Carlos, and going over so many items. You know, there is a lot going on. I mean, people sometimes forget that because they are isolated, or they're just not getting out of it, you know, because we are still a little limited, even in our own minds, type of a thing. But anyway, so I certainly appreciate you coming and visiting with us today and updating everybody on what's going on. Once again, that was Mayor Carlos Juarez, mayor of the beautiful city of Santa Paula. And I'm Peggy Kelly. This is Good Morning Santa Paula. If you would like to watch this online, you can go to kadytv.com. YouTube, be sure to like us. That helps us bring more broadcasting to you. And of course, we're on cable channel 10 on the city government channel. And everybody have a wonderful weekend and a very safe weekend. And follow those guidelines. And thanks again, Carlos.
You're welcome, Peggy. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.